And we're live. Welcome to the OUYACast, episode 36, recorded on Sunday, November 2nd, 2014. Your weekly source for latest news, games, and hacks for OUYAns everywhere. I'm Brandon from OUYACentral.tv.
And I'm Steve from OUYAbrew.com. Thank you guys for joining us for episode number 36. We're slowly pushing our way up to 40 and then 50, and who knows, man.
Yeah,
It's
who
awesome.
knows?
Every week we do this. It's just more and more awesome.
Oh yeah, especially today I was looking at on the OUYA forums and I saw there's a game coming out tomorrow. It has to do with music. I can't remember the name of it though. Unfortunately, I need to.
It's
need
a
to look.
music game. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, what do we got in the news today?
Well, we have finishing out their Halloween Booyah sale on the Discover store. They have their playlist of like some Halloween games, and there's quite a few that are on sale. First off, Never Ending Nightmares 25% off, and that's uh, 11.24, $11.24 until November 3rd, which is tomorrow. And then we have Whispering Willows, 66% off for $5.10. And that one ends on November 4th, which is Tuesday. And Killing Floor Calamity, ending on Tuesday for 70% off for $4.50. That's a good savings right there because I think that game is normally like $14.99. Then we have Mini Grown 2 Zombies for $2.50, 50% off. You know what? I think I want to buy that. Hopefully, I got enough money in my wallet. I want to try that game out. I mean, it has a free to try, but hey, I want the full version. So let's see what else we got. We have the Oregon Trails, the director's cut. That 60% off. It was on sale all last week. No, the week before. Um, starts out, it's $2. That ends tomorrow, and then Zombie Driver HD is 80% off, and that one I'm not too sure how much it is. It's for sale because I purchased it already.
Well, it's 80% off. It's going to be well worth a purchase because I think
Yeah,
originally it wasn't that much, so
yeah, it's like maybe it's got to be probably like 99 cents maybe. It was like 4.99 maybe. I don't know. Sounds about right. And then last but not least, new release this week that just no this week that just passed. Yeah, Skulls of the Shogun is 20% off until this Tuesday for 7.99 as a release sale, new release sale. So that's cool. Um, that's pretty much all the sales that are going on until next week. I know Twin Robots was offering Twin Robots for free on Friday, and also Def was on for free on Friday. That was kind of cool. And Def, if you don't know, this episode we'll be having the developer on here. He's waiting in the wings to so we can interview him. His name is Andrew Perry from OMG WTF Games.
yeah, so definitely we're gonna try to get to him rather quickly because I know there might be a time crunch issue. So what else were we gonna discuss here really quick? I know that we have on the notes here to talk about the Android TV.
Yeah, the the Nexus player that Google's coming out with. They have, I think I don't think it's out yet, but it's a it's a competitor to the Ouya. But I mean, I don't see it, being that competitive with the Ouya for a number of reasons. Um, there's no USB drive. There's no Ethernet plug. So it's strictly Wi-Fi. So, depending on how your Wi-Fi is at your house, it might not be a good idea. Um, I know with the, who knows, because no one has really tried it out yet. I know Ouya had some Wi-Fi issues, and then they updated theirs to the Ouya 1.5. Everybody thought when that came out it was like the Ouya 2, but it's not. We're still waiting for it. Isn't that true?
Still waiting. Hmm.
Still
Yeah,
waiting.
but what's nice though is despite obvious shortcomings of the Ouya as far as like an updated processor and all that, which for when they came out, for when Ouya hit the market, they're still pretty competitive as far as these set-top boxes and stuff that are trying to come out and compete with them.
Right.
So we'll see if anybody can really overthrow them as far as features and stuff for the price. The $99 price point for the Ouya is amazing, and then especially during the holidays, you're probably going to find that even cheaper. $69.99 or maybe even 70, $80, whatever. But
Right.
I'm sure it's gonna go on sale. So keep your eye out if you don't own an Ouya. Get ready to buy one. Plus, it's an
Hmm.
awesome Christmas present.
Right.
It really is.
I mean, it also like the Nexus players is $99, but you have to pay like another 40 for the controller. So
Yeah.
where the Ouya comes with the controller, and then you can buy additional ones if you want to. Um, yeah, I was thinking, Ouya, with all these, Nexus player, and then the Fire TV just came. Amazon's coming out with a Fire TV stick. All these, these gaming media consumption devices are coming out around, for the holidays. I think Ouya needs to kind of hurry up and announce that Ouya 2 for us.
Step it up, guys. I actually bought a Fire TV stick because I have Amazon Prime,
Right.
which I will not be renewing because I think it's going ridiculously too expensive and they're just cutting features and it's just not worth it anymore. But anyway, point being is I still do have it for a little bit, and they were having like a big sale where you can get it for like it was like $10 or something, like 15, maybe 20, I don't know, but it was really super cheap. And I'm like,
Yeah, it's 20
man,
bucks.
I was like, I got to get it because Christmas is coming not too far from here from now, and it's going in somebody's gift pile because you just can't pass that up. So
Right. Yeah. It's like, yes, no, it's gonna be like $40, and yeah, I got one too, so it's like 20 bucks, so 50% off before it even comes out. So that was cool. Yeah, I want to try it out. I wanted to try out the Fire TV, but for $100, I'm satisfied with the Ouya. But the Fire TV was only 20 bucks, so I was like, I'll give it a try. But yeah, I think Ouya needs to step up their game and try to announce something, because the holiday season's coming, and I think it's coming. And then when that comes out, they might reduce the price of the original Ouya to maybe like 49.99, something like that. You know how they do
yeah,
with like the iPhones and iPads and stuff. They reduce the the previous version to a lower price. So they'll have like at least two models for people to choose from, like the old one or the new one.
it's gonna be sweet.
Oh yeah.
Can't wait for it.
But
Shout, shout out to Rosie119 watching on our YouTube channel. We
oh
see you.
yeah. Yeah, shout
There's
out
probably
to
Ross E or something. I'm so bad with pronunciation, but anyway, shout out anyway. You know who you
that.
are.
That's what's his name. We had him on the show.
Yeah,
J Ross.
J Ross. Yeah.
I think James, that's his name. Shout outs to James. He's working on a Flappy Bird clone that with a different type of style to it. We'll have to get him back on the show once he releases that game.
Heck yeah. But let's talk to our developer who we do have on the show right now. Why don't you do the introductions for us?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, OUYAns everywhere. We have Andrew Perry from OMG WTF Games with us. He's a developer of many games on the Ouya. I thought he had like two or three, but he actually has like four. Like I'm not too sure. I mean, let me find him out. But yes,
Well, we
welcome.
can ask him.
Yeah, he knows more than I know. Welcome, welcome.
You know, Hey, applause.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, we have a live
Oh
audience.
man, how many games do I have on Ouya? I don't even know. I got to look myself. I think it's four. Um, I've got my Ouya on here, so I'm having a look. I really do have to check. I got developer page up. What have I got? Yeah, it's four. It's four. Just want to check there wasn't anything I forgot.
So what's your latest game that you released? Is it Def or have you done something since Def that I'm not aware
I
of?
think I think Def is technically Golden Scarab is probably the most recent, but Def is the most recently updated with new
Okay.
content and stuff. So
And
yeah.
for the people who aren't aware of what Def is, can you explain to us a little bit about the game and what the gameplay is like?
So Def is it's a little bit like a tower defense game, and a little bit like a real time strategy. Um, but you know the sort of open field style of tower defense, where rather than having a continuous line of enemies coming and you just put the towers on the side, there's this other style where you have a bit more of an open field and the enemies come from multiple directions and you've got to defend. Um, that's that's more the style of Def. I think it's probably the less common style of tower defense from what I've seen. And so it makes it a little bit more like the play style of real-time strategy battles, but without the resource gathering because you just get resources for every enemy you kill, and that helps you build more towers. And then interspersed between the levels, there's some interactive fiction story stuff. So, if people want to get into the story, they can kind of chat to the chat to the aliens and um, do that part too. That's the the overview, I guess. Um, there's a backstory, um, which is like, oh, what's this version you got up here? Oh, this is the. Sorry, I'm looking on the screen. You've got the survival mode or the practice grid up. Yeah.
Right.
Um, yeah. So the basic backstory is that you're someone who's gone as a reporter to this alien station called the Flotilla on the other side of the rift, which is this spatial anomaly. Um, and you get there, and things start to go wrong, and you end up having to help control their defenses to defend the base. That's the basic premise in terms of story.
That's pretty neat. So, how long did it take you to develop this game from start to finish, roughly?
From start to finish, it's sort of it's a staged process. So the very first prototype, um, which is pretty simple and pretty much looks like the practice grid mode, took a weekend. Right, it was one weekend because it was a game jam game. I did it under the theme minimalism, which is why it's kind of abstract because I wanted to keep it true to the original theme of being minimalist. So that was a weekend, and then I thought, okay, now I'll take 3 months and I'll flesh this out to a bigger game. Well, that took six, right? So that it ended up taking me 6 months, not 100% of the time, but maybe working on some other games at the same time, maybe half the time. And then that was the first 15 levels. And then I wanted to do a big update after the initial release. And so the next 15 levels took about another 6 months, again, working on other games and things and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was like any of these projects, right? You go, oh, yeah, I'll have this done in, a month, but I'll double it to be sure. And then it takes, 4 times what you think. So,
I'm slowly learning that myself. I was like, oh yeah, I'm making a game myself, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna, have 20 levels in it, and now it's like, yeah, maybe 10, because
Yeah, yeah,
I'll do the rest of them once it's released, because man, it's such a process, like you don't realize just how much goes into it, just how much you got to go back and fix, because you're
mm,
not only trying to fix or to create a level, but then you have to go and make every scenario that you can think of happen to see if it breaks the game too.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's, I mean, something I found in making levels for Def is that they're they're pretty time consuming to actually put together for what looks like a fairly simple gridded level. And I mean, I could be self-critical and say, oh, well, that's a design flaw because it should be easier from that perspective. But just tuning everything so that the level is interesting, so that the waves are keeping you on your toes, but still winnable. Um, it's you have to iterate round and round in circles um, until it feels like the level is you know not not just too easy, not too hard. Balancing that difficulty. And I know from talking to a few people that maybe a few of the levels on Def are maybe a little too hard still, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know if you guys have played much, whether you've got any sense on that. Um,
I think just personally, when I played it, it it wasn't too hard, but it definitely took me a little bit of time to get adapted to the gameplay style. Because like like everybody, you're used to traditional tower defense games where you have to line them on a path, and it's kind of like they just all follow that like robotic
mm,
path. And with this game, it seems like it's very fluid, and they can kind of just move around places that you would normally expect your enemies to move around. So it makes it a little more challenging, but just playing it over and over again, well, you'll get the hang of it pretty quick.
Yeah. What gaming engine did you use to develop the game, and what language did you write it in?
so it's built in Unity,
Okay.
um, and I did everything in C sharp. So
Okay.
that's in Unity you can use their variant of JavaScript, which is Unity Script, C sharp, or a more obscure language called Boo. They're the main ones, and I tend to use C sharp exclusively now. Um,
Okay. All
yeah,
right.
it's a good engine. It's I enjoy doing stuff in Unity. Not perfect like anything, but I've come to know it
All right.
pretty well now. So yeah,
Yeah. It's best to stick with what you know, right?
yeah,
That's
that's
pretty
it.
awesome.
That's cool.
So when you're coming up with ideas for games, are you just kind of spitballing like, hey, this is what I want to see, or do you get input from other people?
So I probably should get more input from other people to be honest. But yeah, I tend to just have a big list. Actually, in Evernote, I have like a list of ideas that come up from wherever, whatever. Going, ooh, wouldn't it be cool to have a game like this, right? And that sometimes they turn into games and get fleshed out. But the other half of the time, it's usually game jams, particularly the Ludum Dare game jam, or Ludum Dare. Yeah, people like to pronounce the Latin. Um, so this is like a 48-hour game jam where you make a game from scratch in a weekend, and I've been doing that for a number of years. And so they have a theme. When the clock starts, they say the theme is, and for Def it was minimalism. I think the last one was connected worlds and this sort of thing. And so I often make a game like that as a prototype, and then if it turns out good, I'll go, oh, well, this is worth exploring further and fleshing out to something bigger. And Def's probably the one so far that has moved well beyond the initial prototype. Most of the others have often stayed pretty similar and just been polished up, but Def is one where I went, okay, now I'm going to move from just a single level to multiple levels and all this stuff.
That's pretty neat. So, do you like? This is just just spitballing here, but if somebody were to get a look at that notepad with your game ideas just by happenstance, what might it say as like the next thing on it?
Well, in terms of the next thing that I'm actually working on, that has extensive notes, is a game probably called Planet Sweeper, which came out of the last Ludum Dare, and it's basically it wasn't intended to be like this, but it's basically a bit like Minesweeper, but you pick a spot on the open field to try and find planets, and you fire off these little bursts of particles, and you have to watch the flow of the particles around the planets, which are invisible, to detect where the planets are, and then once you figure it out, you can click on the planet and get it. It's kind of simple, but people seem to really like it in the game jam. It got voted into the top 25, top 25th, into the top 25 of innovative games in that particular section. So that's not bad out of 1,000 or more entries. So I figured if people are liking it, I should definitely explore it further. So that's the main one. But yeah, there's lots of half-baked things that haven't gone anywhere yet.
What made you want to develop for the Ouya?
Well, I can remember when I first heard about the Kickstarter, and what they were describing of a micro console that had a fairly open ethos kind of fit these notes for something that I'd been taking some notes about. Oh, wouldn't it be awesome if there was this console that was like a Linux-based console that was pretty lightweight but could still have enough power to play some decent games. And it was funny because then when they came out with this, we're doing this Android console, that's kind of a lot like my idea, but it's not just spitballing it, it's actually going to happen. So I was pretty enthused, and backed them at the developer level back then. And yeah, that's where it started, and I've found I like it because I don't know, my preference, even though I do play the odd mobile game, I always have a lot more fun with something with a gamepad.
Right.
So when it comes to developing, even though I try to put stuff on mobile as well, because there's obviously a massive market there, when it comes down to it, with my own play testing and my own experience, I always feel like the Ouya just feels cooler. So yeah, that's
cool.
what keeps gravitating me to put stuff on there, even though I can easily do a PC release as well and that sort of thing.
Right.
Well, that kind of leads into what I was going to ask you. So, do you think that you, or maybe you do, release on other consoles? Like, PC is one thing, but what about now that there are other Android-based consoles out there, like the Mad Cats, like, even something like the Fire TV, like we were talking about earlier? Would you consider releasing on those, or do you think that you're going to try to stay, as far as Android consoles go, not PC, but do you think you might try to stay strictly with the Ouya console?
Yeah, so I think I've been watching the other consoles appear, and certainly not opposed, but I guess the difficulty is that I don't like to develop for something unless I own the hardware, because it always seems like you ultimately need that physical device there to test that it's performing well and figure out all the quirks. So um, until I was to get a Fire TV and get a Nexus player, I wouldn't attempt to develop for them. And it sort of adds up after a while. You've got to buy all these devices. So until I have a sense that they're doing okay, and there's going to be enough people who are actually going to play the game and maybe even pay money for it, I'm probably holding back on those guys at the moment. You know, just watching and seeing, what they do. There are also bigger markets, which seems funny that I'd want to avoid the bigger market, but the nice thing about Ouya is that it seems to be smaller. You don't have the whole of Google Play, users there, but you tend to get good exposure. It's
Right.
not as crowded. So, if I was to put a game on, Google Play for the Nexus player, I think it's just swimming in there with the rest of them, and it may not even get noticed at all.
Yeah.
So,
It's hard for the discoverability.
yeah, exactly. It's an experiment that I might end up doing eventually. But the other thing with the Nexus player I think it was the developer of Twin Robots who had mentioned this, that it seems to have a lot of trouble with Unity games at the moment. They haven't optimized the engine for the Atom CPU, and I'm sure they'll get there in the next few months. But just right now,
Right.
it seems like Unity games are a no-go on Nexus Player. So that's another reason not to be rushing there.
All right.
How have you found working with the developers or with the development team for Ouya? Working with the guys who like Tim Grotman and stuff, trying to get your game on the
Yeah, no,
Ouya. Have they been good working with you, or?
they're good. They're really good. I mean, that's the other attractive aspect, I guess. Like, when I first sent Def in for review, you would know they have this review process where they check that the game is, at least functional, plus a few other tick boxes before it goes live. And Alex, I've forgotten his surname now, but
Yeah.
Alex was the guy who
Doherty. Yeah.
play everything, and he played it and gave me feedback about a few things, which actually one of them was a speed up button, which I kind of knew should be there, but there were some bugs that I wasn't able to solve before I wanted to release it, and I'm like, okay, I'll just leave the speed up button out, and that's in there now in the new update. But so he picked up a whole bunch of things that in his QA process that made the game better, right? And I think the other big guys are gonna do that as well. But if you submit to a mobile app store, Google Play or something like that, nobody looks at it. You don't get free QA done for it, which is kind of a nice thing.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it's nice having that feedback, because the community can offer you so much, and then you have to, when the community gets it out of the way, then you really got to have somebody who's like part of the industry, kind of giving you that last little push, because, they know the inside stuff, and I know one of the things that developers get a lot, at least from what we've talked to other developers with, is that there is a lot of misunderstanding about the screen sizes and like where the safe zones are and everything. And I think that a
Mm.
lot of developers, they make games and then they forget that they have to like make them a very specific way so that they look correct on the screen, because it's one thing
Yeah.
to work on your PC during testing, and it's quite another to have it in the engine and running and all that. So
Mm.
it's nice to have that
Yeah.
feedback from them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's I think it's important too because it just means that when you fire up a game on the Ouya, it's probably going to be okay as opposed to all the weird issues that you might get if you try and sideload something that's not quite made for it. And yeah, it's good that
Right.
they have a certain bar of quality um, just to make the experience better um, rather than being the complete Wild West. And yet they're fairly open. They're not ultimately they don't have sticking points about things like I think there was so one of the other games I have on Ouya is Golden Scarab, and there was a bug which may even still be there actually in the I think I fixed it though. The After you finish the game, um, the analog stick seems to stick and change from one player, two player, one player, and keep cycling like that. And they sort of picked that up on the first release and went, yeah, there's this issue, but it's not so major that anyone's going to worry. So we'll let that one through, um, as if that was one of the bigger console makers. Then they definitely go, oh no, go back through the process again. We can't release this at this point. So um, I think it's striking a balance.
Okay.
Being realistic.
So, what other games do you want to talk about that you have developed? You said you were talking about Golden Scrubs.
Golden Scarab, yeah, I could talk about Golden Scarab. So that's I don't know if you fired that up and played it, but it's like a dual stick shooter, a dual stick arena shooter or something, sort of in the vein of Galaxy Wars or some of Bag of Wrongs games like War Daddy and that series.
Right.
Um, and in fact, that's kind of where it was inspired from because I was like so last year I was doing this one game a month thing where I try and make a game even if it's small, at least one a month. And
Right.
Golden Scarab was my last game for one game a month. Um, so it was put together in actually just a couple of days for the initial version, and then probably a week's worth of extra days here and there in polish and extra stuff. Um, but I sort of I'd been playing War Daddy, and I thought, yeah, this is pretty cool. I've never done a shooter like this before. I'm going to give it a shot. So it was really directly inspired by playing that, and then taking influences from all of the flashy dual stick shooters out there. But I guess the one thing that makes it that that links it really closely to War Daddy is the length of the game, in that it's intended to be short, intense, and then over. Um, so it's something that you can just pick up and play and kind of blow your mind for a couple of minutes and then be done. Um, yeah.
It's like one of those like God, was it? I played a game forever. Geometry Wars, that's what it was.
Mm,
It's
mm,
like the same kind of thing. Like by the time you're done playing those games, like your eyeballs are like
yeah.
huge because you're just like, oh god, you're holding
Yeah.
on for dear life trying to play this game.
Yeah. Yeah. It can get pretty rough on the eyes. It's like it's not something you want to play for hours. I don't think.
So let me ask you this, because I've always been curious, where do you get your like material from, like the sprites and the effects and all that? Like, how do you come up with that? You just program it all? Do you have people helping you? Because like it just seems like I can't draw for anything, so it's amazing to me the people that can code, program,
Yeah,
draw, and then add all these cool special effects, and I'm like just floored. It's like, wow, man, I'm never gonna be there, but
yeah.
it's pretty intense.
I'm not much of an artist really. I mean, I try and I pretend, but I'm not much of an artist. I probably should collaborate with a few artists or hire some artists more frequently. But yeah, for instance, in Def, well, it's the game board's largely composed of squares, so that's pretty easy. Um, the the head sprite is actually me wearing a mask. So I have this mask that I got years ago at some $2 shop, and I'm pretty sure it's not of any particular licensed character or anything. It seems a bit random, and it made a cool alien. So I just took photos of myself wearing that in different poses, and then edited them up into the sprites for the alien head. Um, Golden Scarab. I just did the sprites myself, just in the GIMP. Um, there's one we haven't talked about yet, 20.8%. So that's a bit of an art game. But the spaceship in that I did myself in Blender. I'm sort of slowly learning how to do 3D models. I wouldn't say I'm good at it, but um, I can make a simple spaceship now. So there you go.
Good
Awesome.
enough to make it into a video game. That's all that matters. So I
Yeah.
want to ask you something else here, kind of unrelated to your games. What are you're in Australia, correct?
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
what what part roughly
Melbourne.
in
So
Melbourne?
down in the south. Yep.
As a game designer, and I'm sure subsequently as a gamer, what do you feel about the fact that you guys pay like so much more money for
Yeah.
everything in the gaming world than everybody else? I mean,
It certainly feels unfair, um, and yeah, it's one of those things. I think we've never got a good explanation for why this is the case. I think that one of the craziest examples of that was not just even in, it really crosses all software pricing. Was the Adobe Creative Suite before they went to Adobe Creative Cloud. When you bought Photoshop and other stuff in a box,
Right.
it was cheaper to fly to the US, buy a copy there, than it was to buy a copy in Australia.
Wow.
Um, now this is like software that goes into a couple of $1,000 or something, but it was a good example of just how big the disparity was, and it's still there. There's a site, and I can't remember the name of it. Steam, something to do with Steam prices, where you can look at what stuff is listed on in Steam in different countries, and yeah, we tend to get gouged here in Australia. They call it the Australia tax. Um,
yeah, it's pretty ridiculous the difference in price. But I'll tell you what, man, you want any kind of software, you just pay for the shipping there, and I'll go buy it here. I'll ship it to you. You let me know. I'm your
yeah,
hookup.
yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. Yeah, this is even like things like an Ouya, like they're not doing pricing disparity in Australia, but the shipping means that when you hear about the $99 console, great, $99, that's cheap, and then when you factor in the difference between the US dollar and the Australian dollar, which it's now, ours is about worth 85 cents US dollars, and then factor in the shipping, you're probably looking at it's about $150 or more to get it
Wow.
shipped. If they'll actually ship it, and that's the other problem is you go to Amazon and order it, and then they say, oh no, we don't ship to Australia, we only ship to the US. So that's kind of common too. So
Wow.
but you find ways and get
Where
around
there's a
it.
will, there's a way. Yeah, looking on Google right now, it looks like 99 US dollars is about 113.22 in Australia.
Mm.
So
Mm.
you guys are paying almost $14 more.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
the thing about Ouya, and I don't know this, maybe you can tell us, depending on your region, but it seems to me like once you have the hardware, then their software model probably stays pretty consistent. A $2.99 game. Obviously, you're still going to pay in Australian dollars, but the $2.99 game here is going to be a $2.99 game there. They're not just going to jack up the price for the fun of it.
no, yeah. It's just currency conversion after that. So um, I think they show local pricing for some currencies. Don't know if they do Australian dollars, um, but yeah, they just do currency conversion. Um, I I don't think from the developer interface that there's even a facility to change the pricing between
Each country.
countries. In Google Play, you can decide
Right.
individually each country how much you want to charge, but Ouya doesn't tend to do that. I don't think they can block games from certain countries and say, "Oh, this is only available in here or there," but they don't change the price.
Well, that's a good
Which is
thing
nice.
about Ouya and even Steam to some extent is, then you do get to take out that factor of, the box and CD type games, and it's all digitally, available, and it's up to each one of those people, companies, to decide how they want to roll out their particular software, licensing and fees and all that. And in the case of the Ouya, it's up to the developer individually and not up to the game company. It's not like EA where they're like, well, this is an EA game and we're going to charge you, 10 times more,
Mm,
because every developer can charge whatever they want or give it to you for free or whatever. So I think that's
mm,
one of the major benefits, especially to people who don't necessarily have access like yourself to the less expensive games. I know that the Ouya is in like a lot of European countries now, and I think we've heard obviously they're going to be in China, which is huge, and
mm,
just that whole ability to kind of just have everybody enjoy, it, just enjoy gaming, and that's really what it's all about, is just enjoying the game, having people make games like yourself, put it on a game system, and having somebody, 4 countries over say, "Oh my God, this is awesome! Let's play!" And that's all it needs to be about. And I think somewhere we kind of lost sight of that in the gaming world, and now it seems like we're trying to make a comeback to it. So it's
mm.
it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's exciting times. Always changing.
Right. Well, it looks like the time is winding down for us. Final words. What game are you playing on the Ouya that you didn't develop?
But I didn't develop. What have I been playing lately? Gee, um, I played a lot of Super Puzzle Platformer actually.
Right.
That's on and off. I've been playing that. I also played I'm Flying to the Moon the other day. I played it all the way through. It was sort of like I enjoyed it, but by the end I was just like, okay, I'm so close to the moon now. I've just got to do this. Kind of
Let me
gets you in.
let me ask you this, because I've been playing it too. Can you actually make it all the way without having to hit those refuel tanks on the way up?
Yeah, you can. You can. I mean, here's the pro tip, and this is probably not what you should do, but if you just sort of leave it on and walk away for a little bit with the rocket flying up and let it crash and then come back and do it again and again, you'll still get points which you can level up with, and then you can get there. But it does tell you at the end how many days it took you to get to the moon, and so I think I took 38 days, and probably 8 of those days was me just pressing go and walking away to do something else because sort of two-thirds of the way in I decided I just want to finish this now. Yeah.
Hey man, I think it took the United States over a year to get to the moon once the challenge was issued, so 38 days is pretty good.
Awesome. Well, it's about time to wrap this up. We're so glad that you came on and shared your game with everybody.
Where can people contact you at?
So I'm on Twitter at OMGWTF Games. I got a website which is omgwtfgames.com, and you catch me on Google Plus, Andrew Perry on Google Plus. You can figure out which Andrew Perry it is. Yeah, they're the main avenues.
Okay.
Emails on the website.
Awesome.
And do you accept ideas from people if they hear this and they're like, oh, I got a great idea I'd love to see him make?
Look, it's always interesting to hear, but feel free. But I guess the difficulty is that it's like every game developer, you have so many of your own ideas and so little time to actually make them turn into real games that the chances of someone else's idea ranking above your own is usually not that high.
Pretty tough.
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Oh, hey, thank you so much for joining us, and go ahead and sing us on out.
Well, that's it for this week.
All right. Here you go.
We're going to come out with a OUYACast song and play it at the beginning of every episode. But no, that's it for this week. You can contact Perry at OMGWTF Games on Twitter. You can contact us, Ouya Central, at Ouya Central TV, and at Ouya Brew. That's it for this week. Stay tuned for next week, 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sundays. We try to do this every week, and we're just trying to get more developers on. Yeah, that's it.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Catch you next week. Bye-bye.